Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Diecast Restos, featuring an extremely rare Lone Star Flyers Vauxhall Firenza. It joined the lineup of the British company in 1971, the 26th of May 1971 in fact, the date that the real Vauxhall Firenza launched. This was because Lone Star had been given exclusive rights by Vauxhall to produce a model. What resulted was this stunning and accurate replica, highly detailed with Vauxhall and Firenza lettering, opening doors and bonnet in line with the rest of the Lone Star offerings, and excellent rolling wheels with firm but responsive suspension. Mine is missing its bonnet, but I have sourced a replacement part. Interestingly, the casting can be found in left-hand drive layout without the Vauxhall badging on the back or base. This is because it was sold in Canada as the Viva Firenza for a short while, where it was a bit of a flop. Here is a fresher example with the bonnet intact. And here is a real Vauxhall Firenza. The best thing about the Flyers Lone Star models are that they are held together with a flathead screw. No drilling or tapping. So to disassemble this casting, it's all rather straightforward. Now the reason why this is so special for me is not simply the rarity of this model. Sure, I had to pay a high premium for this example, but it has a more personal connection. My dad had a Vauxhall Firenza and he loved it. So I'm going to gently customise this Lone Star Vauxhall to match his, to an extent. Even better, here to tell you more about his Firenza is the man himself.
Hi there, it's Jason's dad here. I see he's kindly restored a Vauxhall Firenza, like the one I had many years ago. I got that in April 1978. And I used it until July 1986. When I bought the car, it was at a garage in Wheelie near Clacton, and it was stunning in the showroom with the boot and the bonnet open and the doors open. It looked incredible. That's what drew me to buying the car. At the time I had a Triumph Toledo, but this one was so nice compared with the Triumph Toledo. The one I had was white with black vinyl roof. Had Ross style wheels. I put spotlights and fog lights on the front. It also had twin headlights as well. So it looked good at night time with all the lights on. During my time of owning the car, my father had a Vauxhall Viva with a sunroof. When his failed MOT, he scrapped the car. I took the sunroof out and cut a hole in the roof of my Firenza and put the sunroof in. I wouldn't dare do that today, but I was brave enough to do it when I was young. But it was good at the time and it fitted very well, but I would never do it again. I had the 1800 SL model. It was quite quick in its day, but obviously not compared with today's cars. But it gave me lots of pleasure, never let me down, and it's nice to see them on the road today at classic car shows, but there's not many of them left. Maybe one day I might get another one, but my wife didn't like it much, but so she may not let me have another one, but you never know. I sold the car to my brother-in-law who used it for a short time because we got a more modern car. We had a young family at the time and we got a fairly new Ford Fiesta. Not as nice as Firenza, but it was a pleasure in my day to drive and it looked good. It was one of my favourite cars. I wish I still had it. It gave me so much fun. Great days, great memories. I actually prefer the Firenza with the 4 headlights than I do the Droop Snoop. I think it just looks a better car. The Magnum, which came along at a similar time, also looked a nice car. 2 of my friends had Firenzas and one of my friends had a Magnum 2.3, and when they were all parked up together that used to look stunning. I'd like to see them all again parked up, but they're probably I like what Jason's doing to the classic cars. It makes it interesting and it's good to see him put back to use. He has a nice collection of them now. Thank you.
My old man there, reliving his Vauxhall Firenza story. It's amazing how we become so emotionally attached to these metal objects, whose sole purpose is to move us from A to B. But it's always great that memories of your favourite cars and adventures in them live on. Now, my custom restoration won't go so far as cutting a hole in the roof like my dad did. No, instead I'll keep it fairly true to how the model appeared, just with some bonus detailing on the otherwise painted over features. I'll also give it a black vinyl roof like his had. In case you were wondering, I'll run through a little of the backstory of the Vauxhall Firenza. Named after the Italian city of Firenze, known in English as Florence, the car launched in May 1971 and continued in production until 1975. It is related to the HC series Vauxhall Viva and came equipped with 3 engine choices: the base 1200cc overhead valve or the 1600 or 2 litre overhead camshaft units. Performance was boosted from December 71 onwards, with uprated 1300, 1800 like Dad's, or 2.3 litre engines. The SL model, like my dad said he had, carried the highest level of trim for each engine capacity. All were 4-cylinder units driving the rear wheels. A 2300 Sport SL launched in 1972, which produced 122 horsepower and had bucket seats. My dad also mentioned the Droop Snoot Firenza, which had a noticeably smoother GRP moulded restyled front end. He isn't a fan of this aerodynamic look that incorporated headlight covers in what was officially known as the High Performance HP Firenza. This was owing to its slant 4 2.3 litre engine. All of these were painted silver with a black and grey interior. Just 204 examples were built due to the ongoing fuel crisis after Vauxhall had initially projected a production run of 30,000. As well as Canada, where the Firenza sold through Pontiac and Buick dealers, the Firenza was sold in South Africa too. Here it was known as the Chevrolet Firenza. Aside from the regular production run of Firenzas, a 100-car run of homologation models known as Chevrolet Can-Ams were built. These came equipped with the 5-litre V8 from the 1969 Z28 Camaro. Vauxhall replaced the Firenza with the Opel Manta B-based Cavalier Sports Hatch and Coupe in 1975. The Lone Star Flyers model continued on in production for a further year after the real car had been discontinued. In spite of the 5-year production run, these castings are scarce. I paid over £30 for this example, missing its bonnet, which is around $40 at the time of recording. Complete condition models, no matter their state, sell for double this. Mint examples are easily well into the hundreds. It is reflective though of a well-cast model that had exclusivity. It now means that even in the worst condition, Firenzas are still incredibly sought after. I'm sure this restoration might be considered sacrilege by some, but it's a personal tribute to my dad's beloved old car, so I'm paying no attention to what any haters may say. As you will have seen earlier, I was sure to treat the casting with respect. I used my gentler paint stripper instead of the harsher caustic soda method that I use for the more run-of-the-mill die casts. So with the body painted white and the roof painted in Tamiya's TS29 semi-gloss black, I begin the lengthy task of detailing the Firenza after tidying up a bit of overspray with a white paint pen. In addition to the chrome bumpers, the chrome extends to the side skirts and window surrounds, as well as providing the shiny base for my light clusters. My dad mentioned earlier that his car came fitted with Rostyle wheels. These originated in America, but became hugely popular on British vehicles in the 60s and 70s. They are typically associated with the MGB and characteristically had pressed steel raised spokes. They were painted black between the spokes and were grey or chrome plated elsewhere. They can be known as Magnum style wheels, but Rostyle comes from the name of the company that manufactured them, Rubery Owen. As well as retaining the original model's shape by opting not to hack it apart and put in an aftermarket sunroof like some might, I've decided to leave the red plastic interior unpainted. I didn't want to deviate too far from the Lone Star model's origins, and I think alongside the white and black body, it will look fine. Now I add the finishing touches to the body with orange and red Sharpie applied to the lights. One of my final tasks is to coat the front indicators with CITADEL gloss NULN oil for some added depth. The same goes for the fuel filler cap and the rear light clusters. Finally, a clear coating seals in all of that detailing. Likewise, the base is sprayed too. Here are all of the components that make up the Lone Star FLYERS Firenza. The suspension piece is pushed over the 2 posts in the base first of all. This piece also retains the wheels. I imagine this can become fairly brittle and could snap easily. A metal rod holds each end down for that excellent springy suspension. Moving on to the body, and next to be fitted is the window transparency. This is angled over a lip on the front window. Next is the original red interior with the steering column reattached. Then lastly, I slot in the front grille and align the hole for the flathead screw. I wish all reassemblies could be this easy. So here is how my tatty looking Lone Star FLYERS No. 7 Vauxhall Firenza arrived with me ready for rescuing. Most evidently, it was missing its bonnet, which is thankfully reproduced. I'll leave a link to the source in the description. The paint job was pretty rough, but well disguised by the silver paint. The front axle was also misshapen. So, as a tribute to my dad's favourite car that he owned, I customised this to look like his, had he not cut a hole in the roof. And here it is, totally transformed with some additional detailing featuring the vinyl roof his car had. All I've done to really fix this casting is straighten out that front axle and fit a reproduction bonnet. It really is a special casting for me and my dad in more ways than one. I loved that Lone Star had exclusivity. It made the model even better and gives it a great story. As this is my penultimate video before Christmas, I'd like to wish all my viewers a very Merry Christmas and say a big thank you for watching and continuing to support Diecast Restos. Even bigger thanks go to my Patreon supporters, whose contributions go a long way to help fund special restorations and customs like this. You can join them too, links are in the description. So once again, it's thank you from me and
thank you
from my dad, and we'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.